Heyo, I trust this video finds you well. Maybe you just went to the zoo and saw a tiger. One can only hope. If you haven't seen any tigers lately, well, this video isn't as cool as a tiger, but cross fingers, you get a kick out of it nonetheless. Today, we're on a mini nostalgia trip. The collection is kinda extensive these days, so every now and then, I like to bust out some of my earlier pieces and reminisce about that early watch fever when I knew a lot less and made, shall we say, less thoughtful purchases. That said, even shooting from the hip can yield some solid results from time to time, and while I have some duds marinating in my little storage container, there are still some snazzy pieces to be found. I was making less cheddar several years ago when I really fell down the rabbit hole, so I generally focused on more budget-friendly pieces, still do mostly, and that would certainly apply to this video's subject. On deck, we've got a semi-dressy, everyday kind of piece from the Seiko Essentials collection, code SUR307. Some of you may be like, yo, Chris, Seiko Essentials, what kind of off-brand jank are you peddling? I wouldn't blame you. In the insular watch collecting world, Seiko is more known for their dive pieces, the venerable Seiko 5 line, etc. But hear me out. Seiko Essentials is kind of like the mall watch line for Seiko. And I say that with the utmost reverence, with all due respect. There's a real charm and purpose for these pieces. You can get a snazzy, wearable watch with decent specs, and you get to keep more of your Skrilla. Do people still say Skrilla? We're gonna go with it. And you gotta love that. In many ways, this line gives me strong, affordable citizen vibes, but from a brand with perhaps a bit more collector cachet. Alright, y'all know I love to gab, but lest we forget what we're talking about, let's don our spectacles. We have a diameter here of 40 millimeters. We have a thickness of 9 millimeters. Ooh, a lug to lug of just about 47 millimeters, probably just a little hair under that. A lug width of 20 millimeters and a weight of 99 grams sized to my wrist. There's a conspicuous metric or two there, obvi. We got 40 millimeters, and to a lesser extent, that 47-ish millimeter lug to lug. I know, out of character for yours truly. But it was early days, y'all. I didn't know any better then. It took me a while to calibrate my preferences. Maybe you can relate if you've been collecting for a hot minute. Big however time though. Despite my spindly ghost tendril of a wrist, this watch actually looks pretty solid on my 6¼ inch circumference. Gasp. How is that accomplished? Well, for one, I think that lug to lug is just on the cusp. I'm almost maxing out on skin real estate here. Ew, I'm never saying that phrase again. Don't let me, y'all. The lugs curve down a bit, which is a big help. The watch head hugs the wrist, and the thinness does it some favors as well. So if you too have a wispy bit of fog for a wrist, you can likely pull off this piece, and you may really want to give it a whirl for other reasons too. There's an overall air of class with this piece. I think it can really contend with pieces in much higher price brackets. I don't talk about price a lot on here since I don't generally go too high on most of my pieces, and I don't really find it to be that interesting of a topic most of the time. But I'll say you get a chunk of watch for under $200 here. It's gone up closer to that price point in the years since I bought it, when it was closer to about $100 from various online retailers. But even still, you've got a refined, kind of timeless appearance here, y'all. Silver sunray dials, stainless steel, those are usually best buds. No exception here. Baton indices, a framed date window, Dauphine hands, a sapphire crystal, an uncluttered dial with only that applied, yay applied, Seiko logo. There's a tasteful mix of brushing and polished features on both the case and the bracelet. On the more utilitarian side of things, and what makes this piece a solid everyday piece, are the screw down case back and the 100 meters of water resistance that it affords the watch. You've got the reliability of a pretty bulletproof Japanese quartz movement, There's even some decent lume on offer here, though it's not gonna like slap your face in the dark or anything. However, no rose-colored glasses here. When you get down in the weeds, the swatch is definitely a budget piece. The lume, as I kinda intimated, is so-so. I'm also not generally a fan of the lume on the Dolphin hands either. That's more of like a personal bugaboo though, I have to admit. It feels like more of a concession to usability at the expense of snazziness. The bracelet is the big tell here. Isn't that the same old song for so many of these budget pieces? Very little in the way of micro adjustment, with a thinner, cheap feeling, jangly kind of press fit stamped clasp. I have to wear it a bit tighter than I like since it was the best fit I could get with removing links. That clasp I mentioned is at least branded, which is more than I can say for the unsigned crown. Finally, the second hand pretty much never hits the markers, so there's that, to be expected. But that's really all I've got in the way of negatives, y'all. It's not a piece I wear anymore, really, just because the collection has sprawled quite a bit and there are better alternatives on hand. But we all gotta start somewhere, and if you're just starting out, or if you want to avoid my horrible fate drowning in watches, you can't really go wrong snagging this little ombre, wearing the heck out of it, and just calling it a day practically, y'all. So yeah, try to get a quick one out for you this time around. I've got some bigger projects in mind for the near future, so keep a lookout. I'd love to hear your perspective in the comments. Have you ever indulged in one of these essential Seikos? Does it suit your fancy? Hope you're having a rad day wherever you are. Thanks for spending a little bit of it with me. Take care.